We in the G5 Hive, buzzing loud, we thrive. Underdogs rising up, taking shots, we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. Yo, it's game day, stadium packed, feel that rush. From Boise to App State, man, we never hush. Rocking the colors, yeah, we bleed that pride. Cinderella stories, watch our dreams collide. Late nights, bright lights, we grind every play. Underrated talent, we gon' make them say, who's that team when we come to town? Representing for the schools that wear the crown. We in the G5 Hive, buzzing loud, we thrive. Underdogs rising up, taking shots, we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. Yo, it's game day, stadium packed, feel that rush. From Boise to App State, man, we never hush. Rocking the colors, yeah, we bleed that pride. Cinderella stories, watch our dreams collide. Late nights, bright lights, we grind every play. Underrated talent, we gon' make them say, who's that team when we come to town? Representing for the schools that wear the crown. We in the G5 Hive, buzzing loud, we thrive. Underdogs rising up, taking shots, we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. We the ones they the ones they can't skip. Fighting for respect, it's a tough road ahead. But we pack that heart and we never dread. Late hits and big plays, we bring in the heat. Watch out for the G5, we can't be beat. From the MAC to the Sun Belt, we don't back down. In this football jungle, we wear the crown. All the doubt is sleeping, but we making noise. In the G5 Hive, we the realest boys. When the clock's ticking down, we the ones to believe. One play, one chance, we gon' make them achieve. From the sidelines to the end zone, hear that roar. In the G5 Hive, we always wantin' more. We in the G5 Hive, buzzing loud, we thrive. Underdogs rising up, taking shots, we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. So raise your flags high, let them wave in the air. In the G5 Hive, we the squad that's rare. With heart and grit, we rewriting the script. In the world of college football, we the ones they can't skip. Yeah.
Here's Navarro on the run. Navarro's going to keep it. Navarro for 6. Touchdown, Bobcat.
I feel I had a hard time staying in my own lane.
Oh my goodness! Brett Murdoch, pick 6.
Harvath inside the 30, the 20. Blake Harvath will score.
And Mendoza takes a big hit. He never saw it coming. Trey White got in there.
There's his man, Rucker. And nobody's going to catch him. Goodbye.
Intercepted.
Tyree Skipper. Touchdown.
Telly again, why not? A step forward and make it 2 for Telly.
Quarterback keeper. Showing off the speed. Steps on the gas. Untouched.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
Welcome to the G5 Hive, where we bring you the G5 college football coverage you love each and every week. I'm Luke. I'm joined by my co-host, Justice. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, and a retweet. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. Tonight, we will bring you up to speed on news around the G5, review what went down in the 12 bowl games from last week, and we're going to round out the show by diving into the last 2 G5 bowl game previews, which will bring us to the end of the G5 bowl season. But first, Justice and I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, however you may have spent your time. Now, let's get into our G5 Hive Players of the Week. My offensive player of the week for the bowl games is Western Kentucky quarterback Maverick McIver. Maverick led the Hilltoppers to a comeback victory in the New Orleans Bowl, throwing for 199 yards and rushing for 48 yards and a touchdown without Maverick coming in on that second half. I'm not so sure Western Kentucky wins that. Congratulations, Hilltoppers. Congratulations, Maverick.
My defensive player of the week for the second week of bowl games is North Texas safety Will Jones II. Will had 14 tackles, 7 solos, 1 tackle for loss, an interception, and a forced fumble to lead the Mean Green to victory in the New Mexico Bowl. Congratulations, Will. My offensive player of the week for the second week of bowl games is Hawaii wide receiver Bufele Ashlock. Bufele caught 14 balls for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns to lead the Rainbow Warriors to victory in the Hawaii Bowl over Cal. Congratulations, Bufele.
And my defensive player of the week for that second week of bowl games is East Carolina Pirates edge Josiah Robinson. Josiah had 5 tackles, 2 solo, 1.5 tackles for a loss, and 1.5 sacks to lead the Pirates to a big victory in the Military Bowl. Congratulations, Josiah. All right, we've got the recaps going on. We've got a couple bowl games to get to for previews. But Justice, before we dive right into all the great G5 games that there were this week, there was great offensive performances and stellar defensive performance. But first, what does the Swarm need to know? Our news and notes.
Most of it's coaching news. We've talked about it for several weeks now. We're not really going to dive into the transfer portal till later, sometime January, February, once kind of all the dust is settled. But before we get to all the coaching news, one bit of player news I thought was worth sharing, and that's Army. I don't know what you want to call him, slot back, wide receiver, running back, do it all on offense. Anyway, Army's Noah Short. He is the first player in Army's football history to have both 1,000 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving yards in his career. It's a pretty big accomplishment for a team that doesn't throw the ball. But yeah. All right, let's get into some coaching news. Troy is expected to hire Tarleton State offensive coordinator Adam Austin as its next OC. He was the offensive coordinator at Tarleton for the last 2 seasons. This past season, they averaged 42.4 points per game and were ranked in the top 20 in total offense, rushing offense, and passing offense. He was also named the Football Scoop FCS Coordinator of the Year. East Carolina is hiring former Memphis defensive coordinator Jordan Hankins as their next defensive coordinator. He was the defensive coordinator for Memphis for the past 2 seasons. And additionally, East Carolina has promoted defensive line coach Roy Tesh to a co-defensive coordinator. East Carolina is, however, still expected to run the Blake Harrell defense. UAB defensive coordinator Steve Russ has been relieved of his duties. There were some other position coaches as well. That happened, I think, yesterday. Arkansas State has hired Garrett Altman as their next offensive coordinator. He was the quarterback's coach for Vanderbilt the last 2 seasons. Ohio has named John Hauser as their head coach. Hauser served as the interim head coach for their bowl win. And he was also, before that, he was a defensive coordinator. And then the final piece of news, Coastal has hired L.D. Scott as its defensive coordinator. Scott was a defensive coordinator at Missouri State under head coach Ryan Beard. And Ryan Beard, I guess, just went with what you know, right? He's hired both his OC and DC from Missouri State to follow him over to Coastal Carolina. Be interested to see how it works in the Sun Belt versus what we saw in Conference USA and when their time in the FCS. And that's pretty much it for the news and notes. Not much going on other than coaching news and transfer portal news. And the transfer portal is crazy, man. I know JMU, I think at this point has lost every member of their starting offense. Either not all of the transfer portal, some graduate, right? But they've lost their entire starting offense. I believe ODU is down to only 2 starting players on offense, 1 offensive lineman and a running back. And then, App State played today's bowl game with only 68 players. Iowa State has, I don't know, somebody texted me this. I haven't fact checked it yet, but somebody texted me about 10 minutes ago saying that Iowa State only has 17 players on their current roster. Like everyone else is either graduated or enter the portal. Just insane, crazy, man, crazy. With the one portal window, like I think coaches thought it was going to help, but I think it's going to be crazier because it's only one window. It's open for 15 days, 2 weeks, and it opens, I guess, on the first, second.
Yeah.
But like most schools start like the 12th. So like there ain't a lot of time for players to schedule.
I think it's only open. It might only be open for a week because I think it closes maybe on the 12th or something like that.
There's not a lot of time for sure because they're like, I don't know. You pretty much have to decide where you want to go like before it opens, because once it opens, like you're gonna have to get enrolled, move to a new school, etc. And you're not gonna have much time to do that. So it's not like you got time to go on 3 and 4 transfer portal visits. I think what's gonna happen this time is you're gonna when the music stops playing, there's gonna be lots of players that find themselves with no seat to sit down on. I think that's what's gonna happen. The players are gonna be the ones that suffer, I think, in terms of this short window, but we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, it's the transfer portal's wild and crazy. I know for our show in particular, we're probably going to take maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks off. Well, because we're just going to wait until we know where those players stand. Like you can have all your coaches in place, but if we don't know who's running those systems and who's going to be in it, it's going to be a little bit tough. So I think there might be a week or maybe 2 that we kind of take a little break, which will be great for us. But then we'll get back on it and, like you said, start digging into these offenses and defenses and who's coming back and who's being added and what does that actually mean. We'll do our best to break that down.
Absolutely.
But let's break down these bowl games, our bowl games in review, and let's start out with the Bush's Boca Raton Bowl. That was last Tuesday on the 22nd. It was 8-4 Toledo against 8-4 Louisville. The first half was about Louisville's special teams, Toledo defense, and Toledo penalties. After an opening drive, 75-yard touchdown for Louisville, Toledo's defense held the Cardinals to 92 yards the rest of the half and forced a fumble. But Louisville defense and special teams would help them in terms of field possession as they blocked a punt and forced a fumble. However, those resulted in 0 points as Louisville would miss a field goal and fumble the ball back to Toledo on its ensuing play. Toledo had 7 penalties for 50 yards in the first half. The second half would be about this Louisville finally being able to establish the run and Toledo's fourth quarter surge as they scored 19 points in the fourth. Louisville had 37 yards rushing in the first half. However, like I said, they got that running game going in the second half and they ran for 170 yards and would be the reason that they would win this game 27-22. There was kind of a black eye at the end of the game. I would kind of like it was a pretty good game just overall. And then there's some frustration and a fight scrum at the end. But at the overall, it was a very exciting game. But like I said, Louisville wins this one 27-22.
Yeah, Toledo never gave up, man. They fought hard. Thought they were gonna make the full comeback. It didn't quite happen, but kudos to the Rockets for not a lot of teams might have folded, right, and not put up that fight in the fourth quarter. But Toledo came to fight and almost pulled it out. Almost.
All right, moving over to the New Orleans Bowl on Tuesday the 22nd. Western Kentucky 8-4 against Southern Miss 7-5. This was a great first half of football, highlighted by an interception by Southern Miss defensive end J.J. Hawkins, a dropped punt That's right. A dropped punt. We saw it in, was it the Oklahoma-Alabama playoff game, but Southern Miss had dropped a punt, and then there was some chippy play. But overall, it was a very, very physical game. The first half story was about Southern Miss defensive line winning in the trenches, and they made things very difficult for Tisdale. Maverick MacGyver, my player of the week, would start the second half as Tisdale was knocked out on the last drive of the first half. And honestly, he gave Western Kentucky that spark that they were looking for. Looked probably the best he's looked since week
2.
I guess
Maybe.
they played in week. Did they play in week 0? I can't remember.
They did. So week 0 and week 1, he played really phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, without him, like I said, they probably don't win that game. He was my offensive player of the week. Southern Miss season was summed up in this entire game. Hot start, followed by a disappointing second half. Western Kentucky wins this one, 27-16.
Yeah, Southern Miss, man, like just what a collapse to end the season. They at the end of the regular season, they needed to win 1 of 3 games to win the Sun Belt West. They lost all 3, and then go on to lose the bowl game too, man. Like,
I was just watching. Man, this is their season. This is their season game. Here it is.
100%.
All right, the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl to cap off Tuesday, December 22nd. We had 10-3 UNLV against 8-4 Ohio. The first half was full stalled drives and turnovers. You had 2 by each team, but Ohio was up 6-0 at the half. It would mark the first time since December of 2024 that UNLV had been shut out in a half. Honestly, this may be like the worst I've seen UNLV play all season. They've had ups and downs, but this was not good. Now, on the flip side, quarters 2 through 4 might have been the best that I've seen Ohio play in quite some time because they're always turnover prone. That's why I left out the first quarter. They kind of got things going the rest of the game. Ohio had the Rebels' number in the running game as the offensive line played really well for the Bobcats. Ohio would outrush UNLV by 110 yards, ran the ball really well in the second half as they controlled the ball for a little over 20 minutes and ran the ball at 2-to-1 ratio in that half. Ohio wins this one 17-10, but it didn't feel like a 7-point game. They outplayed UNLV all the way through this, and honestly, it was a shocker to me given how Ohio has played this season and given how UNLV has played this season. Like, UNLV had ups and downs, but they were consistently putting up a whole bunch of points. Ohio is like, you would think they're going to lose it, and then they might, and they might not. And you knew you were going to get turnovers, and you knew you were going to get turnovers from Calandria, but this is not how I saw this game going, 17-10.
Yeah, UNLV probably played their worst offensive game of the year. And then, like, much to like what we've been complaining about all year, like they just don't find enough ways to get the ball into Jet Thomas's hands, man. Like
it seemed like every time he touched the ball, he got 7-8 yards.
Like if the running game's not working, like, you know, hit him on a screen or, you know, a dump off or something, man. Like the dude's just like he's your best playmaker other than maybe Calandria, and so like you got to find ways to get the ball in the guy's hands. They just did. Once again, they just didn't do it enough.
All right, and then Christmas Eve, the Hawaii Bowl. Christmas came early for us. We had presents, we had fireworks. Cal 7-5, Hawaii 8-4. Now it took Hawaii 3 drives to get settled in on offense and defense, which is kind of weird because they're playing a home game. But after 3 drives, it was 21-0 Cal. But on Hawaii's 4th drive, they would finally find pay dirt. All the rushing lanes Cal found in those first 3 drives just soaked up, and it seemed like they never got the memo to cover Jacob DeJesus also in this game. Like he was getting the ball, doing anything that he wanted to. That Cal offense wouldn't find as much success driving the ball until their last possession, in which Jaron Kelly Segapulitele scored on a 1-yard QB sneak to put the Bears up 31-28 with 1:57 left in the game. But that is too much time for this Rainbow Warrior offense, as Mike Alejado would drive the ball down the field with 15 seconds left. The Rainbow Warriors would find Alejado down on the field, It was for like the second or third time.
Definitely at least the second time.
Attending to that, I think it was his right ankle. They would have to burn a timeout, and in comes Luke Weaver. Now the question is, you're down 3. Would he just throw it out of bounds and we see Alejado come right back in? Because that's kind of a couple takeaways I'll get to later. Dude couldn't keep his helmet on, so he was out for a play, come back in. Okay, are we just going to throw it out of bounds? We've got the Tokyo toe. Do we just settle for 3 and let him kick it? How about Luke Weaver to Nick Cynical, a 22-yard touchdown as Hawaii comes back to win this one 35-31. This was the largest comeback in Hawaii Bowl history. My keynotes. 1, Hawaii's defensive line was creating pressure on Jaron Cave Sagaputele like all game. He looked really good too. Strong arm. Kid's bright future for that kid. And then I talked about in the 3 drives that Hawaii had to settle in, they had those 3 drives, 0 points, but their next 6, they would put up points in. And then their defense in those 3 drives where they gave up 21 points, it was 189 yards. In the next 7 drives, they would only give up 10 points and give up 279 yards. So only 90 more yards the rest with 4 more drives that they gave up. So that defense really locked in. And like I said, Hawaii needs memos on helmets. We had 3 Hawaii defensive hats in the neutral zone on Cal's last touchdown drive. And then Alejado lost his hat like 3 times. They need to get that fixed for 2026. I know other games I watched in Hawaii, he kept losing his helmet. Like, he can't afford to have him out for a play.
Yeah, almost like he just doesn't tighten it enough, or the helmet's too big for him. It doesn't fit him very well. I'm not sure what the problem is, but this by far was to date was the best bowl game, right? I mean, it was phenomenal. You had like you said, Hal jumping out to that early lead, Hawaii coming back and then completing the comeback with the backup quarterback hitting Nick Cynical, who had missed a lot of the season due to injury. Like, I don't know, it's just like kind of like a fairy tale storybook ending, if you will. Bufele Ashlock has an amazing game for Hawaii. Just I don't know, man. Like, it was the game ended, I don't know, around midnight for me. I guess it was. Maybe it was later than midnight. I don't know. But it was like a Christmas present. It was a very early Christmas present because it was an incredible game.
It was a little chippy there too.
It was, yeah. I mean, he talked about like brawls, like it got a little chippy there at the end of this one too, which kind of sucked. You hate to see it because it was an incredible game. I mean, I think when Luke Weaver threw a touchdown to Nick Cynical, I'm pretty sure like I yelled or screamed, and my wife was like, "What the heck?" Because like it's after midnight, everyone's asleep. No, my wife was still awake, but she was like, "What the heck is going on?" Like, I'm watching football. But yeah, incredible game, incredible win by Hawaii. Another to quote our friend Bud Elliott, it was a safety issue. Another one of those safety issues for the P4 playing the G5.
Absolutely.
P4 took the loss.
All right, let's get to our GameAbove Sports Bowl. So this is a day after Christmas. We've got Central Michigan 7-5 against Northwestern 6-6. And turnovers was the name of the game. Second quarter would kill the Chippewas as CMU had 3 turnovers in 3 plays. Interception, fumble. That resulted in 21 points for Northwestern. Then to start the second half, Angel Flores would run the ball and fumble, which Northwestern would return for 47 yards. And the route was in full swing as Northwestern wins this one 34-7. The Rate Bowl, again, Friday the 26th, New Mexico 9-3 against Minnesota 7-5, and this was a pretty fun game to watch. It was a great start all the way to the finish. Definitely a game controlled by defenses. Darius Taylor on offense and Anthony Smith on defense led the Gophers, while the Lobos were led by Damon Bankston on offense and I'll just say the entire defensive unit as a whole played well. When you go and you look at stats, like there's nobody that really like popped out to you. They just played like go to the football, mob tackling. Like everybody did their job really, really well. Highlights in regulation had to be the sweet dime that Drake Lindsay threw to Jalen Smith in the corner of the end zone in the second quarter. Just threw it perfect in the back left, and got to be the 100-yard kick return made by Damon Bankston in the fourth quarter. Regulation wouldn't be enough as we head to OT, tied at 14, and overtime. Minnesota wins on a fantastic diving catch in the middle of the end zone by Jalen Smith for 12 yards and a 20-17 win. Overall, really good. Brian Urlacher was there talking about all the fans that showed up. This was the first time pretty much that New Mexico has played a bowl game outside the state of New Mexico. So it was really great to see all the people show up for it, and it was a really good game. Really good game.
Mexico, bright future there in New Mexico with Jason X at the helm.
All right. And then the ServPro First Responder Bowl, FIU 7-5 against a 6-6 UTSA team all season long. I haven't understood what this FIU team would be. I haven't really understood what this UTSA team will be when they're on the road. Well, FIU came out strong in this one as the opening drive touchdown, followed by a punt return, put the Panthers up 14-0. And you're like, all right, looks like we've got the good of the Panthers here. But the UTSA defense would have no more, as UTSA's defense would only allow 88 more yards in the first half. The UTSA front seven had their way with Joe Pazinski. That's right, Joe Pazinski. He was out there. I mean, Keon Jenkins was out there in the very first play. Whatever. Joe Pazinski got the start. He seemed to be running for his life throughout this one. He was only able to throw for 102 yards through three quarters. Puzzling to me. One, Keon Owens wasn't more involved in the game. He had 8 rushing attempts for 36 yards, 1 catch on 1 target for 5 yards. And Keon Jenkins didn't get significant playing time till the fourth quarter when the Panthers were down 27 points, and pretty much this game was over by the time they put him in there. So, like, the whole time it's like, okay, he came back, he played in the conference championship game, then he doesn't play here. If you're going to put him in, probably at the second half is when you put him in there to play, because Joe Pazinski wasn't doing much. That offensive line was switched cheese. Let's put him. It's like, okay, he doesn't come out there, and Joe's in there to start the third. Okay, like Jenkins must be really hurt, and then he plays in the fourth quarter. Like, what are we doing?
That Panther offensive line was, I mean, they were atrocious. Like they just couldn't block UTSA's defense. It's not like the UTSA defense has been a killer defense all season, but man, I don't know if FIU is missing any bodies on that offensive line, but man, like it was atrocious. Like they just couldn't block it. Like you said, it was Swiss cheese.
And then Will Henderson the third, he looked good as he took the rock 14 times, 59 yards, 2 touchdowns. Owen McCowan threw for 295 yards, 5 yards short of 300, 5 yards short of 3,000, I think, passing yards on the season. He had 3 touchdowns as the Road Runners steamrolled the Panthers 57-20. All right, the Go Bowling Military Bowl. This might be my favorite game of the bowl season. Maybe, like you said, that Cal-Hawaii game was good, but this 8-4 Pittsburgh team against an 8-4 East Carolina team, headliner coming into this was all the opt-outs for ECU. Well, those opt-outs play on offense. This game was all about defense. Defense, the entire game. Both came to play as there was a combined 287 total yards in the first half. The fireworks would come on offense at the end of the first half because you had a pass there for Henschel to I'm trying to remember who he threw. Beautiful.
Was it Kenny Johnson or
maybe?
I
can't remember.
It was probably him or either Raphael Williams. Those are the two guys, like, primary targets.
found him. You almost thought the clock was going to run out when he got that touchdown, but that's kind of when the fireworks started, and that would carry over into the second half. So Pitt was up 7-3, and then to start the second half, Mason Henschel would be sacked. It would fumble to ECU, who wasted no time in finding Anthony Smith a one-play drive for 47 yards to go up 10-7. Then things get fishy in this game. You know, you got to have the football gods watching this one as Pitt punts the ball back to ECU. Marlon Gunn ran the ball. I think it was like 80 yards for a touchdown. And then an inadvertent whistle that they played the replay like I don't know how many times. I didn't hear a whistle. I heard no.
Well, and the thing is, like, the whistle had no impact on the play. That's the. I mean, at the end of the day, it didn't matter. If ECU had lost that game, that would have been a travesty because.
And it was very reminiscent of Rajay Harris's bowl game against North Carolina State to win the game. That big long run. That's like he kind of goes into a pile on the right sideline and comes out and he's running. The other thing that they talked about on the broadcast is that the refs could have deemed it a touchdown even though that there was a whistle because it didn't
impact the play.
But whatever. So they bring the ball back. It ends up being a 14-yard run instead of like an 80. Then Chasten Ditta would be sacked, fumble the ball, and then the guy who had a great game, Rasheem Biles, took it 23 yards to the house. Pitt's now up 14-10. This is a game that's like your defense is going to score, and I was like, oh, that might be the thing that creates enough for Pitt to win this one. But again, that the Pirates didn't waste any time. As Anthony Smith again, this time for 72 yards for a touchdown. Then that ECU defense just kept doing their thing. They forced a fumble. ECU would get another 3 points. They go up 20-14. ECU was dominating this one as the defense allowed 42 yards in the third quarter and forced 2 fumbles. Then the fourth quarter with Pitt's next possession, Henschel would be intercepted by Kevon Merrill, and Kevon would return at 70 yards. ECU tacks on another 3 points to go up 23-14 with 6:44 left. There were several possessions still left to be had, but it just with how this defense was playing, it felt like that was game. No way are you going to score 9 points with how this game was going. ECU wins this one as it is a safety concern for the P4 in this one, 23-17 as ECU wins.
Yeah, I mean, ECU, their offensive coordinator gone, defensive coordinator gone, starting quarterback gone, starting running back gone, starting tight end gone, one of their starting receivers gone, and they still, like you said, they had the defense, and the defense played phenomenal. Like I think this is probably the first time I know Luke's done it once before where he wanted to give an entire defensive unit the player of the week. I think this is the first time where I wanted to do it. I wanted to give the entire East Carolina defense player of the week because those guys just played phenomenal. I think they ended up with like 4 turnovers in the game. I mean, that Pitt offense has played really, really well all year, especially once Mason Heinschel took over. And that ECU defense just was having none of it, man. And that was without Jamarlee Riddle. Jamarlee Riddle got hurt early in the game, and he was out the rest of the game.
I can't remember if he got hurt in the first quarter or if it was early in the second. But I mean, they played a majority.
It was early in the game. I don't know if it was first or second, but man, he's one of their best players on defense, and they played the rest of the game without him. And just kudos to the East Carolina defense. A phenomenal game.
All right, now to the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. UConn 9-3 against 6-6 Army. This one was a good one in the first half, and I was honestly a little bit surprised that it was 14-10 at the half in favor of the Black Knights. I honestly thought the Black Knights would be up by more, but Cam Edwards was keeping the Huskies in this ball game. But let me tell you guys, I'm never wrong. I'm just early. As the Black Knights offense scores touchdowns on all 4 of their second half possessions, and that defense holds UConn's offense to 119 yards. Army wins thanks to the trio of Noah Short, Jake Radina, and God's Power Wawihe. I think is I found it. I found an interview where he said his last name, Wawihe. They win 41-16. Noah had 7 receptions, 108 yards receiving, 1 touchdown, 15 yards rushing. Radina was a sledgehammer. He was a wrecking ball. Like 14 rushing attempts for 87 yards, and then God's Power, 12 rushing attempts, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Him and Radina played the same position, but they played them drastically differently.
Yeah.
Noah Short, like Justice mentioned at the beginning, Noah Short, first player in Army history to have 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving in a career. Moving over to the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. This was 7-6 Miami against 8-4 Fresno State. And this game reminded me of when I go to the Y and there's a group of us and we decide to run full court and then collectively decide that was a really bad decision. Let's just switch to like half court. It felt like Miami would have fared way better if both teams would have just started at the 50. All joking aside, Fresno State's defense dominated this game as their defensive line was making life difficult for Thomas Grakowski all game. Grakowski only completed 6 of 22 passes for 72 yards. And anytime Fresno State needed to flip the field, who do they call? Josiah Freeman. He would answer those calls as he had 2 big receptions in this one for 47 yards at the end of the first half, another for 51 yards in their first possession of the second half. Freeman in this one would end up with 7 receptions on 10 targets for 143 yards. But let's talk more about this Fresno State defense. After Miami's opening drive of 45 yards and 3 points, this Bulldog defense would only allow 138 more yards. They would pitch a shutout the rest of the game while generating 1 fumble and 1 interception. Fresno State wins this one 18-3 thanks to their kicker Dylan Lynch, who was 4 of 5 on field goal attempts, and this historic defense. Yeah, I said it, historic. Fresno State's defense held opponents to an average of 285.69 yards per game, the fewest allowed in a season since 1976. The Fresno State, I should say, not of all time, but in Fresno State history, this is the fewest they've allowed in a season since 1976, where they allowed 269.65. So only like 16 more yards that they're allowing. That defense was great all season.
There wasn't a lot of highlights in this game, but for me, like the highlight was when they were interviewing Snoop Dogg in the end zone on a punt, and he actually fielded the punt in the end zone. He caught. I mean, it hit him. He bobbled it, but he caught it right in the middle of the interview. That was probably like the highlight for me. And then and then the bands at halftime playing the Snoop Dogg songs. Those were probably the highlights for me, unfortunately, in this one.
And then our next game, we have the Atlanta, New Mexico Bowl. We have North Texas 11-2 against San Diego State 9-3. And let me tell you, this was a weird game to me. Very weird game to me. Like, we knew what North Texas and Burt Emanuel were capable of, but still, this was wild. This was wild. Burt Emanuel would get hurt late in the first half, and Kyle Crum, so you got your third-string quarterback, would take over. He throws a touchdown pass to Jackson Ford to cut the North Texas lead to 8 heading into the half. It's 28-20. At one point in the first half, I think it was Burt Emanuel had 2 rushes for like
170 yards, I thought. So it was crazy. It was crazy.
It's like, hey, well, we talked about it, last week when we were talking about this. Like, okay, he can't throw the ball; can only run it, and they still couldn't stop him. It was like, this is what he's going to do. It was honestly, when I was watching the game, I was more scared about what the San Diego State team could be next year, just because of their defense has historically been really good. They had some down years, but historically a really good defense. And if you have this in your pocket where you can put up tons of points, man, like that's pretty impressive.
The defense did not play well in this game. The San Diego State defense didn't play well at all.
They did not. And then once that second half started and Kyle Crum comes out as the starter and we know Bert's done for the day, it felt like
the game was over. Yeah.
This game was over, especially after a 3-yard Caleb Hawkins rushing touchdown to put the Mean Green up 35-20. Heading into the fourth, it was 42-20, but the Aztecs would try to make their comeback with a touchdown, then a punt return to cut the lead to 8, but a Mestamaker to Dorner touchdown pass would prove to be the final nail as the Mean Green would go up 15 with 6:08 left. The Aztecs would tack on a touchdown with like a second left to make this game look closer than it was. North Texas wins this one 49-47. I mentioned how this game felt like in hand when Crum took over. 11 yards in the third quarter. San Diego State would do most of their damage in the fourth when things seemed to be kind of out of hand. Like I said, it was 42-20 going into the fourth. San Diego State would get 220 yards of offense in the fourth quarter and 27 points. So definitely made it interesting, but like it never really felt like, I don't know, like once he came out to start the second half, I was like, okay, this game is over.
Yeah.
North Texas got a little sloppy, and they're like, "Oh, we better do something here." And then they would, get a touchdown or whatnot. But like the other part that was kind of weird in this is like Lucky Sutton didn't do anything. 15 rushing attempts, 60 yards. He caught his only target for 8 yards. Like this was just a weird.
They were keyed on stopping him, especially when after Burt was out. Like I mean, like you said, it just kind of felt with no Burt Emanuel Jr. like he was like their offense in the first half. When he was out, like it was like, man, this game is already over. And Caleb Hawkins, man, that guy is special. He is a dude. He is, man, like, I mean, he's had phenomenal games all year. He had another phenomenal game in this one.
Dang near had 200 yards rushing.
That touchdown catch on that one run, man. Like he's so slippery. Like he breaks tackles. Like the dude's just so smooth. Someone's going to get a hell of a ball player. And I'm sure he's going to get paid handsomely next year. I hate to see it. No doubt he'll be playing for a P4, but man, like that dude had a phenomenal season and a phenomenal bowl game.
All right. And then the last one happened earlier today. We have the J-Lab Birmingham Bowl, 6-6 Georgia Southern, 5-7 App State. We've got a rematch of an earlier game. And despite App State switching between quarterbacks, Noah Gillian, who went 4 of 7 for 64 yards. He threw 2 interceptions. And then a cornerback, converted QB in Matthew Wilson, throwing for 128 yards and 2 interceptions. He also ran for 110 and a touchdown on the ground. I think App State should have had a legit chance to win this game. But in reality, the game wasn't close at all. I'll get to that a little bit later. Georgia Southern beats App State 29-10, due in large part to App State's turnovers. Like I mentioned, those 2 quarterbacks, they threw 2 interceptions each. That's 4 interceptions total. They had an interception at the 28-yard line of Georgia Southern. They had an interception at the 18-yard line of Georgia Southern. They have an interception at the 38-yard line of Georgia Southern. And then they have an interception at the 5-yard line of Georgia Southern. Like, you just can't win when you're in a rivalry game and you have 4 turnovers. And Georgia Southern, like, I think it was 10-7 at the half, but like App State was like, I felt like at the 30-yard line of Georgia Southern all game, and then they just couldn't get any points, not even field goals, because then they would have a penalty and then another penalty that would push them out of field goal range, or put it at the like kicker couldn't get there.
It was bad. It was just bad football, I thought, man. It wasn't a good game at all.
So I want to go back to this where I say App State should have had a legit chance to win this game. So the first interception, they throw it at the 28-yard line. It gets intercepted at the 22. Let's just say that interception doesn't happen and they get 3 points. So it's at 7-3 Georgia Southern in this magical world that I'm in. Then their next interception happens at the 18-yard line. It gets intercepted at the 2. Let's just say they get a touchdown in that drive. It's 10-10, and App State's up 17-13 at the half instead of being down 10-7. And then in the second half, they get intercepted at the 38-yard line. It's actually possessed at the 35. Let's just say they get a field goal. It's 20-20, and then the last interception happened at the very end of the game. It's intercepted at the 5, or the snap happens at the 5. It gets intercepted at the 2. Let's just say they're able to get into a touchdown. It's 30-30 with 59 seconds left. But that world doesn't exist. We didn't have that. O.J. Arnold was big in this one. He rushed for 152 yards. He had 11 carries. It caught 4 balls for 11 yards. Shout out to Dorian Smith for his 2 interceptions, one in the second and another in the third. But like I said, App State just they didn't look like they were ready to play. Georgia Southern didn't look great either, but they win this one 29-10.
Yeah, it was just a bad football game, man. Like, App State, like I said earlier, only had 68 players drafted. They were missing a ton of players on both sides of the ball. And Georgia Southern pretty much had everybody, right? They had J.C. French, they had O.J. Arnold, they had Camden Brown, and they just, like, I don't know, like, if I'm a Georgia Southern fan, like, I'm glad I won, but, like, the game, you look back at the game and what App State had out there, like, it should have been way worse than what it was. Georgia Southern should have scored, like, in the 40s, man. I don't know. It was just an ugly football game on a Monday afternoon. But, hey, it was football on a Monday afternoon. Don't want to complain too much.
All right. Now, the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl, that's tomorrow or today, whenever you're listening to this, Tuesday, December 30th, 2 p.m. Eastern. We covered that Coastal Carolina, Louisiana Tech coverage in our last episode. You can find that Monday, the 22nd. We had that on our episode where we broke that down. So now we are going to look into our bowl game previews. The Armed Forces Bowl, Friday, January 2nd, be New Year 2026 football. 1 p.m. Eastern, Texas State favored by 14.5. Over under set at 57.5. We've got Rice 5-7, 6-6. Texas State. Justice, what do we have for stats?
Before I get to the stats, I think the odds makers have it right. I think this is all Texas State. But looking at the numbers, it's no shocker what Rice wants to do. They run a triple option offense. They want to run the ball. They're the 14th ranked rushing offense, averaging 213 yards a game, and passing 135th, only averaging 97.9 yards per game. I will say this game is going to be a little bit different than maybe if you've watched Rice other games. There won't be any Chase Jenkins. Chase Jenkins is in the transfer portal. Somebody must have gave that dude bad advice because this offense is built for Chase Jenkins, right? But nonetheless, there will be no Chase Jenkins. So that means it'll be Drew DeVilliers. And so to me, that means like there might be more passing than what we have seen in the past. Drew is not a runner like Chase Jenkins was. So you might see some more passing. In terms of players to kind of mention the quarterback there. But obviously in a triple option offense, the running backs are huge. Their playmaker, their guy that can, run it for 70. The ultimate one-touch guy, Quentin Jackson. He's just electric with the ball in his hands. He's their primary running back. But given that there's no Dalen Alexander, I think there's 2 freshmen that we highlighted way back in, I don't know, June maybe, whenever we did our Worker Bee series of Rice, DeAndre Hardeman Jr. and Tyvon Byers. I think they might get some more work in this game, right, with no Dalen Alexander. And then in the passing game, look for a wide receiver, Aaron Turner. Before we get to that Texas State defense, any other players that are missing from the transfer portal or et cetera, or injuries, Luke, for Rice offense? Oh, you're muted, Luke.
For the transfer portal, you got wide receiver Drayden did come in. But like you said, this is an option offense, so we want to focus on Dalen Alexander, the running back you mentioned, 74 carries, 392 yards, gone. Like you said, we're going to look at these freshmen, and I'm excited, especially DeAndre Hardman Jr. Really excited to watch him.
I think Alexander's going to hurt him. He's kind of the goal line guy, right? He's the guy doing the dirty work in the middle. So they don't have Chase Jenkins either. So yeah, I think that's where you're going to see the two freshmen, Byers and Hardman, kind of do their damage. Whereas Jackson's kind of the guy you get the ball to in space on the outside.
And then I know I'm just going to get ahead of it, but the Texas State injuries, when we flip the ball, Bryce Carter, defensive tackle, a guy who is going to rotate in there. He played, a fair amount of snaps, but he missed the final 2 games. I don't anticipate that he'll be on there. He's there at the left end. So might be missing him. What else do we need to know?
Key players for that Texas State defense: linebacker Traylon Payne, their leading tackler; safety Ryan Nolan, edge Khalil Alexander, he's their guy for the pass rush, and then their top corner Kamari Terrell. When you look at the numbers for this Texas State defense, they weren't great all year. 96 against the rush, 85th against the pass. They gave up 30 points a game. I think the defense is going to play better. Just because I don't know that with Drew DeVilliers as the running this offense, I don't think it's going to be as effective as it would be with the Chase Jenkins back there. So they're going to be able to key more so on the running backs and not really have to pay, or not to be as concerned with the quarterback keeping it and running it. So I think that's definitely a big advantage for Rice. For Texas State on defense. Let's move over to the Texas State offense and the Rice defense. Texas State offensively, I think this stat will surprise folks that aren't familiar with Texas State. I think most people think in their mind they throw the ball a lot. Well, they do, but they were the 11th ranked rushing offense this past year, averaging 220.5 yards per game. They were 37th in the pass, and they were one of the top scoring offenses, ranked 13th, averaging 36 points per game. You got the players to know: Brad Jackson, dual threat guy. He can wing it. He can run it. He's just a super talented quarterback for the Bobcats. Running back, Lincoln Perry had a great season for them. And then the two receivers, Bo Sparks and Kriston Jr., those are the top targets. When we look at this Rice defense, they were not good. 81st against the rush, 111th against the pass, 120th scoring, giving up 32.3 points per game. I just don't see this defense being able to slow down this Bobcats offense, especially since they got everyone's playing, right? Like, as far as we know, it's Brad Jackson, Perry, Kriston, and Bo Sparks. So look for Texas State to score early and often. But some players to know for that Rice defense starts with their two linebackers, Andrew Aud, Ty Morris, and then the guy getting the pass rush, Tony Anawanwu. Kudos to Rice for stepping up for teams that backed out and taking a bowl game. But unfortunately, I got to go with Texas State laying the 14 points. I just think their offense is going to be too explosive for this Rice defense that wasn't good most of the year. And then without Chase Jenkins, I think this Rice offense is going to struggle without that threat of a running quarterback.
And then I'm assuming, I don't know what station this is on. I'm assuming it's an ESPN type station. But my guess is
it's on ESPN, 1 o'clock.
They'll talk about the Texas State right guard Talik Lockett and how it's a big loss and this and this. It is. But this team has played without Talik Lockett since week 6. So, I assume that they're going to talk him up because he's a good player.
But he's in the transfer portal. But
I assume, just they're talking about it. He hasn't been there. Kerry Crump on Rice on defense. Cornerback, he was kicked off the team in week 7. I don't know if they'll talk about him at all. But, with all these wide receivers going anywhere, they might talk about, they're down, Kerry Crump. It's like, well, they're not. They're not really. So, just things to be aware of when you're watching the mainstream show there.
Looking at the over under, like, man, that's got to be all Texas State because
yeah.
I don't know. I just don't see Rice scoring more than 10 or 14 points. Like, so that means you're looking at Texas State scoring in the mid 40s. So I don't know. Like, I don't feel necessarily comfortable taking the over under. But I do feel comfortable taking Texas State laying the 14 points.
All right, let's head over to the Liberty Bowl on Friday, January 2nd, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Navy favored by 7, no hook, just 7 straight up. Over under 54.5. You've got 10-2 Navy, 7-5 Cincinnati. What are our stats that you got for us?
Like, again, the Navy offense is about triple option, the number 1 ranked rushing offense in the country, averaging 289.3 yards per game, the 133rd ranked passing offense, only getting 131.8 yards per game. They do average 31.2 points per game. As you might expect, they're Navy, right? They're going to have all their players. There is no transfer portal opt-outs. They're going to have the superstar quarterback, Blake Horvath. They're going to have their fullback, Alex Texa. And then their Mr. Do-It-All, their slot back, split back, wide receiver / running back, Eli Heidenreich. He is their passing game. He's the guy that can take it to the house from anywhere on the field. He is their electric playmaker. He's their big play threat. All those guys are going to be available. And unfortunately, we can't say the same about Cincinnati. Cincinnati on defense wasn't too great to begin with, and it's only going to be worse for them in this game in terms of people that are opting out and not playing. But they were 99th against the run, 90th against the pass. Key players that will be there for that Cincinnati defense, linebacker Jonathan Thompson, linebacker Jack Dingle, cornerback Matthew McDoom, former Coastal Carolina player, and then defensive lineman Jalen Hunt. He'll be the one to get the pressure, given all the losses that this defense is going to suffer, either from opt-outs or guys in the portal. You want to shed some light on that, Luke?
Yeah, so injuries for Navy on offense, not a lot that they're going to be missing. So full strength here when I'm talking about for Navy offense. When you get to the Cincinnati defense, you've got 2 guys who have declared for the NFL draft, and linebacker Jake Goulday and defensive tackle Dante, I don't know how you say his last name. Corleone. So I would assume those guys aren't going to play. I haven't seen anything that they aren't playing or they are, but I'm just assuming that they will opt out in this one. And then you get to the transfer portal. You're going to lose your starting safety in Tristan Harrison. You're going to lose your other safety in Tevin Gola-Collard, another safety that rotates in there, Jaquin Shanks. All of them have played over 500 snaps. You've got your starting cornerback in Logan Wilson and Omari Arnold. They're gone. Logan Wilson is also their kick returner. You've got another safety that is in there in Taden Barnes. And then you've got just a couple guys, Willie Goodwin, safety, and cornerback Kai Stokes. They haven't played a lot, but if you're going to lose those guys, then you're going to want your second string, and they're not there. And then you've got defensive line Micah Coleman, who's had 33 tackles and 2 sacks on the season. And then a guy who rotates in on the defensive tackle, Kamari Burns, also not going to be there. Cincinnati's secondary is going to be extremely thin, so we'll see if maybe Navy tries to exploit that. They also lost their cornerback coach, Eddie Hicks, to Arkansas, so do we see a couple of these guys go with him to Arkansas? We will see, but why don't we take a look at what PFF has here for our lineup?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, without almost all that secondary is gone. Golday's gone. Corleone's gone. I mean, look for Eli Heidenreich to have a field day, I think, in this game, right? I think him and Blake Horvath, this is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is their last game in college, right?
I think so. Yep.
They're both seniors. Look for those two guys to hook up early and often, and both of them to have huge games for the midshipmen against this depleted Bearcats defense. Let's move on over to Cincinnati on offense, Navy on defense, and it doesn't really get a whole lot better for Cincinnati on the offensive side of the ball. They're going to be without their starting quarterback in Brendan Sorsby. But let's look at the numbers, how they looked in the regular season. Pretty balanced offense, 40th rushing ranked offense, and then 55th ranked passing offense, pretty balanced, and they averaged 31.8 yards per game. The players to know, given, like I said, no Brendan Sorsby, they've said that the quarterback is going to be a rotation of Brady Lichtenberg, who is I believe a senior. He served as a primary backup, and then a promising freshman in Samaj Jones. And then they have running backs Tyree Walker, Evan Pryor, their top wide receiver, Cyrus Allen, and then a guy that's probably going to be drafted here come April, and tight end Joe Royer. I'd be interested to see how long Joe Royer plays in this one. Lichtenberg and Samaj Jones, I don't know. Like if I'm Cincinnati, like I think like I give. I mean, you give Lichtenberg the start and you give him a couple series, but I kind of want to see Samaj Jones see a glimpse of the future. We'll see how they play it in the game though. Navy on defense, there's no opt-outs. Those guys that are healthy are going to be playing. The key players for that Navy defense: linebacker Mark Anthony Parker, edge Luke Pierce, who really plays more of a outside linebacker, and then defensive tackle Mr. All-American. He might have been a unanimous All-American. One of the best players in all of college football. He's super athletic. He's fast for his size. Defensive tackle Landon Robinson. He was our American Defensive Player of the Year, and I believe he's the All-American just about on everybody's list. And then their top cornerback is Philip Hamilton. What do we have for injuries and opt-outs for the Bearcats offense and that midshipman defense, Luke?
So quarterback Brendan Sorsby, you mentioned, he's not going to be there, but looks like everybody else good to go. And then defensive-wise for Navy, no opt-outs. You got Job Grant at linebacker. He missed the final 2 games. We'll see if he's able to come back in this one. And then might need some help with pronunciation on this one. But cornerback Arabonis Ohina.
Oniha, yeah.
He missed the final couple of games, but not starters, rotational guys that'll get in there. Like I said, no opt-out. So in this battle here, it's pretty much full strength on full strength minus your quarterback, which is obviously a big hit because out of all the things that there is a starter to a backup, the quarterback is probably that biggest jump in talent level or prep for the game.
And this is what I like Navy, man. I like Navy laying the 7 points. I don't see this defense, especially at such a depleted Bearcats defense, being able to stop this Navy triple option offense, stop the passes to Eli Heidenreich from Blake Horvath, or stop the fullback dive by Alex Texa. So Navy's going to be able to basically control the ball. I think they're going to put up tons of yards. And without their quarterback at the helm of the Bearcat offense, I just don't really know what to expect. I don't, but I got to go to the team that's full strength. All their guys are going to be there. We saw it play out in the Army UConn game. I think we're going to see something similar play out in this one with Navy winning this game rather handily. So give me Navy laying the 7 points.
I agree. The other thing I'd mention is when you have this type of offense, you said Heinrich might have a big game, might be a big game because the first read is going to be him, and if he can get going, he might have a big game in this one. A guy for Cincinnati that we didn't talk about would be Jeff Caldwell, wide receiver. He's a guy I look to. Maybe he's a UDFA, maybe he's round 7 type wide receiver, but he had a lot of success at Lindenwood there in Missouri. Then played fairly well here at Cincinnati. And when we talked to, I'm trying to remember what cornerback we talked to at Bowling Green, but he mentioned he was like the toughest.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't think of the young man's name, but yes.
He was a great interview, but he mentioned Jeff Caldwell as being like a tough dude to guard. Tall dude, Jeff Caldwell. All right. Well, I think that does it. That's record time. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. On X, give us a follow. And if you're listening to us on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, please subscribe and leave those 5-star ratings and review. Be sure to join us next week as we discuss what happened in those last 2 bowl games that we covered here, plus the 1 bowl game from today, Tuesday, or yesterday, whenever you listen to this.
Tomorrow.
It was on Tuesday, yeah. That we covered on last week's episode, Coastal Carolina against Louisiana Tech. And, of course, we will bring you up to date on all the latest news and happenings in the world of G5 college football. We only have a few more episodes left here before this 2025 season is over, and we start looking ahead to 2026. All the coaching changes, the transfer portal stuff, like I said, we're going to take a week, maybe 2 weeks off to kind of gather some more of that information. But it's been a real pleasure to do this all season long. We want to thank each and every one of you for allowing us to be a part of your daily routine, whether you're watching us, listening to us. You're making time out of your day to make us a part of your life, and we appreciate it. And from the G5 Hive, from Justice and myself, we wish everyone a happy and prosperous new year. Until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.
Go!